Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up the screen. Oh, yeah, is it too soon for the Gators to panic about Billy Napier? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to go through an injury report for both teams, kind of talk about the injury situation. And I brought my friend in here, Andy Stringfield. It's been, about a week since he was here last time as a guest.
Ago.
Yep, right at it. And I'll tell you a little something about him if you don't know. And actually, I'm going to play a little video of him. He's a piano player. He's a keyboard guy and also a singer, and he performs up at Dollywood. Very good at both. And you'll see that here in just a second. Yep, not too bad at tickling those ivories, huh? And also, Andy, and he didn't tell me this. I've known him for years. I had no idea he was in the band for the University of Tennessee. I did not know this.
Can't believe I didn't tell you that.
I can't believe it either. All right, folks, and here's a picture of him in the band, actually in his uniform.
See, when I went home wearing that uniform, I just expected all the girls just go plunk, flop right down my feet. But now, same as always, just gazed right on through me.
Yep. Andy was in the band, and I was on the golf team.
Where are they? I think they're talking about us. No way.
You have no idea how proud I felt in that uniform when I brought that uniform home.
I'll bet. Yep. Needless to say, we were unbelievably popular in college. When you tell somebody you played golf or you're in the band, the women just throw themselves at your feet.
Wildly popular.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like being the starting quarterback, isn't it?
Almost.
It's just small differences in life. All right. Now, the big question is in this video, is it too early for Florida to start panicking about Billy Napier? And I know you're thinking, oh, well, you're just a Vols fan. You're just, being a punk, sitting here giving them grief about their coach. Let me tell you something. They're extremely worried in Florida, and they're not real happy, and they've got some major issues that we don't have. I mean, we're strong at quarterback. We're feeling good about our defense. Our offense, what's number 3 in the country already? I think it was number 7 last year. So we're feeling good, and they're coming to our stadium, which is going to be the loudest place you've ever seen in your life. And let me assure you, Josh Heupel is feeling like this.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Oh, yeah. He's loving being at home, that's for sure. But let's get into this article a little bit. So, yeah, after they barely won that game against USF, 31-28, and, of course, they just got beat by Kentucky, like I said in the last video, they're very fortunate not to be 0-3. They're 6 points away, and they played all 3 games at the Swamp, which is at least a 7-point advantage every time they tee it up there. So it's, they're worried and they're nervous.
Yeah, and they have every reason to be nervous. Neyland Stadium is going to be absolutely crazy. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be probably 2015 Oklahoma level loud, where Baker Mayfield said that's the loudest place that he's ever experienced, and he said it's a different type of loud. That was one of his quotes. And Tennessee fans are excited. The trajectory of the program right now, there's a lot of hype around the program. The offense fun to watch, and game day's there, a lot of hype, checkerboard and the checkered Neyland, and it's going to be big, huge, going to be huge.
I think it'll be bigger than Oklahoma. I really do. I think it will be louder than Oklahoma, that's really saying something, because that game was nuts. Absolutely crazy, and how we lost that game, I still don't know.
Butch Jones.
Butch. We might have to have his confidant, Butcher Johnson, on sometime again. He can talk. I like talking about Butch, so I may have to bring him back if he'll show up. It says, in short, to those calling for Napier's dismissal already, it says, I suggest you take a deep breath and understand this is Gators fan nation. So this is the stuff they're reading every day. So there's been some calls for him already, which is nuts. Actually, you know what? Let's go down this article. It shows how much they would have to pay if they got rid of him, which is insane after 3 games. They're not going to do anything like that, but it would be very expensive. It says if Napier was to be let go without cause, he'd be entitled to 85% of the total remaining annual compensation due through the end of an otherwise unexpired term, which is total annual compensation is $51.8 million. So they would have to pay him almost $50 million. And so that's not going to happen. You're not going to have a major university dole out $50 million. So he's going to be there for at least 2 years, probably 3, and he should be allowed to have that amount of time. to see if his coaching style is going to work for Florida. That would be incredibly unfair to put him out after 1 year, kind of like what they tried to do to Brian Harsin over at Auburn.
It's way too early to panic. I think panic is a strong word, and they're definitely not going to let him go this year. That's not going to happen unless it's just a disaster of a season. It's way too – and, it's not like college football fans to overreact or over-exaggerate to a loss. Or
oh, no, not at all, especially Florida.
But it could be time for concern, maybe. Could he be in over his head? Maybe. But it's really too early to tell. So that's just way, way too soon to be talking anything like that for Florida, in my opinion.
Well, he was a very hot commodity before Florida hired him. He actually turned down a couple of good jobs because he was kind of the pretty girl at the prom for about 2 or 3 years there because he was having so much success down in Louisiana at the what school was he at? Louisiana Tech or something? Louisiana
Tech or Monroe.
Something like that. But anyway, he was very successful down there, and like I said, he was sort of a...
His name even came up in the Tennessee job.
I do remember that. I do remember that.
Yep.
He might even have turned it down.
Could have.
You never know.
People did.
Yep. And it says, still I understand why there's a concern about the state of the team. And look, they're seeing it exactly the way we are. They are real lucky not to be 0-3. The folks that are the most sane down there, they know they've been fortunate to be 2-1. So it's not like that Kentucky game was that close, and the reason it wasn't that close because those 2 interceptions. Well, he threw 2 more against South Florida. So that's 4 interceptions in 2 games with no touchdowns, and he hadn't had a single touchdown all year unless you count the Kentucky pick 6. So they're concerned.
Richardson has more tackles than he does touchdown passes.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah.
Because he almost had – they almost had 2 pick 6s, didn't they?
Yes.
In that game. He did make a good tackle on Kentucky.
But I don't think he's quite healthy. I don't think he's 100% healthy.
I don't either. I do not. The word on the street is that he's got some sort of a hamstring injury that is keeping him not as mobile. And I think they've told him to take it easy and to not, be risking anything because their backup is hurt. And we'll get into that in the injury report after this. But they've got some issues that are more concerning than what we've got, even with Cedric Tillman, and we'll talk about that as well. And it says here, and this is, of course, these are folks that are really covering the Gators. It says, if you remember, Napier gave the fan base numerous warnings about the on-field product because what he was left. If you'll remember, Dan Mullen didn't exactly leave those cupboards full. Even though he had some real success, a lot of those guys that were great went on to the NFL, and he was not known for his recruiting. That's one of the reasons he got fired, was that he just wasn't refilling those cupboards. And you have to do that in the SEC. If you don't have the hosses, you're going to get left behind very quickly. So
if you can't recruit at Florida, that's a you problem.
Yeah, no kidding.
That state and that area is loaded with talent. It's probably tougher now with Georgia having the success they're having and Alabama, obviously. So if you can't recruit at Florida, that's a you problem. And that state and that area is just loaded with talent. And Florida is a great job. I mean, a great program with all the history and all the success that they have. And maybe Georgia, the way Georgia's playing right now, maybe that's got a lot to do with it. It's made it harder to recruit that area. But, Dan Mullen didn't leave Billy Napier with a lot to work with.
I'm sick of Georgia. I'm already sick of them. Yeah. And it's only been a couple of 3 years of this stupid domination. Mm-hmm. But they're on my last nerve. They really are. Now, I don't dislike them like I do Florida. Look, I don't dislike any team like I do Florida. They're in a special category for me, and we're going to take care of that Saturday and kind of turn this thing around. And I can tell you right now, the way the Vols are feeling, it's going to be a lot like this.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be bring them on in. I mean, I'm telling you, they're waiting up there like you can't believe. The entire city of Knoxville, it's going to be brutal.
There's definitely a buzz about it around town, around campus. Listen to the sports talk radio. I don't remember Tennessee ever being this confident going into a Florida game. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic is how I'd like to put it, because there is some kind of voodoo or hex over this series, especially on the Tennessee side, that they've probably got some backup quarterback or wide receiver that's going to come in and just run all over us, and I fully expect that. I mean, I wouldn't say I expect it, but it would not surprise me in the least for that to happen. But on paper, Tennessee should win this game easily.
The only way I see them beating us is the turnovers. Now, turnovers you can't control. I don't care what anybody says. It's just a matter of luck of when a guy drops the ball or something pops off somebody's hands and the guy goes for a pick six or whatever. They're going to need some fumbles on our part in order to stay in this game. If they fumble the ball with the crowd the way it is, it's over. I'll just go ahead and tell you, if they have 2 or 3 fumbles, Florida, it's going to be over quick.
Yeah.
They cannot afford to turn the ball over. We hopefully won't, but I think even if we fumbled it once or twice or had an interception, I think we could come back from it, but it would tighten the game dramatically, no question. And we could lose.
Yeah, Tennessee getting off to a hot start is very important for them, and I think if Tennessee gets up early, 2 scores early, and I think Florida could probably roll over and be done.
Well, I think they're going to struggle to score. Florida's going to struggle to score. They've got a quarterback that's not throwing a touchdown, and he's already appears to be limited, and we're going to have a spy on him the whole time, so they're going to try to run the ball on us. And I'll tell you what, our defensive line looked – and I know it was Akron. I get that, but they ran for 35 yards. And Florida, they didn't exactly light up USF, and USF doesn't have the defensive line that we've got. So I feel good about this game, no question.
And South Florida ran the ball very well against Florida.
Oh, yeah, almost 300 yards. Almost 300 yards.
Very shocking.
And they have a running quarterback, and so do we. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll probably see Hendon Hooker running the ball in this game more than we have the entire year, except for Pittsburgh. He ran it quite a bit there at the end. But I think we're going to see him use his legs because Florida, they can't handle that extra running back. They just can't. It's too much for any defense. That's why we struggle so much with a running quarterback. But with their quarterback being limited, us having a spy on him, they're going to force Richardson to beat us with his arm. That's what they're going to do. Tennessee will do that.
That's what you got to do. And Kentucky showed you that, gave you that formula. So did South Florida. If you keep him in the pocket and make him throw the ball, he can't do that.
Yeah.
He's not going to beat you like that.
Well, and the only team that didn't run the ball well on Florida was Kentucky, but Kentucky was without their best running back, which was Rodriguez, I believe is his last name, big 235-pound monster, and they also didn't have a running quarterback. So that played a significant role because Kentucky usually tries to run the ball on you. Well, like I said, they were missing their best weapon, and their quarterback really is not a running back at all. He runs when he has to, but there are no set plays hardly for him to run. Let's see. And here it talks about Florida's 2023 recruiting class, and it's actually pretty good. I think it's about 10th or 11th in the country, and they've got quite a few good players coming, and they're refilling that defensive front and also bringing in 4 wide receivers. So, really they're depleted, and you'll see that when you look at the injury report as well. We'll go over that in a minute.
Yeah, they just don't seem to have the playmakers around the quarterback that we've seen from teams, from past Florida teams.
Yeah, they've got that, what's his name, Pearsall or something. That's a wide receiver. He's quite good. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, they're not loaded like typical. That's for sure. And like I say, their big problem's Richardson. Let's just call it what it is. That's their problem. If that guy was playing like he did against Utah, they're 3-0. But he's not. And really, the Utah game is really the exception as opposed to the rule. So, I thought he would look great against USF, and he did not. And I watched him run the ball a few times, and he did some things he typically would not do. He went down and slid to make sure he didn't get hit. So, obviously, he's a little bit hindered, and I think the coaches have told him, say, look, we don't have anybody behind you.
Yeah,
okay?
I'd say that was intentional.
I mean, what do we got, a true freshman or something? Yeah. Their backup's not ready to go. So, it's a problem for him for sure.
And I think Tennessee will be able to get pressure on him, especially on the edges.
Oh, man, they're going to bring the edges for sure.
Barron and Byron Young. And I think Florida has a couple injuries on the offensive line.
Yeah, we'll go over that here in a minute.
So Tennessee should be able to get pressure on him and hopefully keep him in the pocket and force them in some long down and distance situations.
Which would be nice because we're getting off the field on 3rd down this year. I think it's under 30% is the success rate against UT. Last year it was 112%, I think. It was awful. Mm-hmm. Every time it was 3rd down and 20, they'd get the first down.
I still have nightmares of Matt Corral from Ole Miss.
Well, how about the Kentucky game when it was 4th and 20,000?
Yeah.
and he got a first down. That was unbelievable. We were so lucky to win that game after that crap. I mean, I just thought for sure Kentucky'd go down there and score, but they didn't. So that was great. In this article, they're talking about Anthony Richardson, and he said, I don't think he's going to get benched because the Gators don't have a legitimate backup. Their backup, Jack Miller, isn't ready to go. He's had thumb surgery. I think he broke his thumb, so he's still out. And I think what they have behind that is somebody that has not ever thrown a ball in college football, some high school guy, which you don't imagine having your first play as a college quarterback at Neyland Stadium, 102,000 people, and they know you've never thrown a football in college, going crazy. I mean, first of all, you can't even hike the ball because you're not going to be able to hear it. So you got to go silent count. And the pressure and stress of that on some 19-year-old is going to be too much.
I heard an interesting quote from Brady Quinn, former quarterback for Notre Dame. When he played up here in, I believe, 2004 it was, he said it was so loud that his center would turn his head and say, I'm snapping the ball, because nobody else could hear him.
That really is a detriment, too, to your offense. Oh, man, because they're just not in sync.
Yeah.
And if we get 2 or 3 offsides on them, it's only going to get louder. If they mess up and have 2 or 3 offsides or whatever, delay of gains because of the crowd noise, that's just going to take it up another 10 decibels. So I can't wait to see that. That's going to be my favorite part of the game, I think, is just how impactful the crowd will be. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be 7 to 10 points, one way or the other. I think it'll make that big a difference. I mean, look at what happened to Utah down at the Swamp. Utah wins that game if not for the Swamp fans. They really saved Florida's bacon.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that Florida hasn't played on the road yet.
No, not at all.
And what a place to have your first road test for the season.
Yeah. That's why they're worried. Okay, they're not stupid down there. Well, some of them are, but they're not real stupid because they know it's going to be brutal, and they know we're confident. They're scared of our offense, and they should be. All right, now let's talk about the injury report. This is the Gators midweek injury report. It says they've ruled out 2 starters against Tennessee, and they have upgraded 2-player status. The 2 players that'll be out are their right tackle and also their long snapper. Now, you might not think that's that big a deal having a long snapper out. That could be significant. You might want to you might want to keep that in the back of your mind, because if they have a bad snap under that, and think of the pressure that some new guy who's not used to snapping the ball under that kind of intense pressure, you got to be able to snap it for your punter, for your kicker going for field goals. I mean, it's significant.
Especially if you're backed up on your own end of the field and your punter's in the back of the end zone.
That would be rough. That would be rough. I'd almost feel sorry for him.
You'd hate to see that, wouldn't you?
I would. Yeah. Yep.
Almost.
There'd be a moment I just would be beside myself. But anyway, right here, Jack Miller, who is their backup quarterback, he's out. Their tight end's out. Of course, we know about the tackle and also the long snapper, and they've got and they've also got another offensive tackle out. So they've got 2 of their tackles out on offense. That's going to make it hard to run the ball. And now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's their middle linebacker, Ventrell Miller.
This is a big loss for Florida.
Yeah, he's their best player on defense. He's their quarterback on defense. He calls all the defensive plays and layouts. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and with the success that South Florida had running the ball against Florida, and maybe it was after he got hurt in the game. I'm not sure. I wasn't able to watch much of the game. But if Tennessee can have success on the ground running the ball, look out.
Yeah.
If that opens up especially if Cedric Tillman's not going to play, which I don't think he will. At this point, I really don't think he's going to play.
We'll see. I think that's up in the air, man. You never know with these young guys. I am concerned if it's a high ankle sprain, that's going to be tough. But we'll talk about that here in a second. Yeah. Whether this guy's going to play or not, this Miller fella, it's hard to say. If he does play, I think he's going to be limited, because he's coming off some sort of a high ankle sprain as well. And those can be difficult depending on the grade. Now, if it's a low grade one, that's one thing. If it's high grade, that's really tough. It says if Miller's unable to play on Saturday, look what they've got to use. They've got to use a true freshman at middle linebacker. that would be difficult. That's really not a job for a freshman, a true freshman, maybe a redshirt freshman, but that'll be rough. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I look for Tennessee to attack the middle of the field more than we've seen so far, especially with the tight ends with Jacob Warren and Princeton Fant, and especially if Tillman's out. You put Jalen Hyatt on the outside, Brew McCoy on the other side, and then that leaves room in the middle for for Ramel Keaton or Squirrel White or Jimmy Callaway in the second half.
Look, we're still a nightmare, even if Cedric Tillman doesn't play Saturday. First of all, Coach Heupel's not going to let anybody know anything because he wants them to plan for him. That way, if he's not, they've spent all that time.
You'll get nothing and like it.
Yep. And if he does show up and play, well, that's fine. That's fine. You got a 5-star out there, basically. Yeah. So it'll be tricky for him. But even without Tillman, if he doesn't play, we've still got Hyatt, who just exploded. You still got Brew McCoy. And then, look, somebody else might pop up and just look unbelievable. I think we're a lot deeper than people think because we have a tendency to stick with 3 or 4 guys. And like I said, we didn't know Hyatt was going to explode like he did last week until Tillman went out, and all of a sudden he became the number 1 option. And he looked like a world beater. I mean, he could not look any faster or better and more comfortable catching the football. He made it look like child's play.
Yeah, he had a play against Akron where he caught a pass across the middle, then outran the secondary.
Oh, it was pathetic. I mean, he just left him. Yeah. He just left him in the dust, and he looked so fast.
It was fast.
And how easy were those catches? I mean, look, he had 11 catches the week before. He has got great hands. That guy has got. He's like flypaper hands.
I give Tennessee's coaches credit for that because he came in under Jeremy Pruitt and he shown flashes his first year, but and last year he struggled a little bit. He didn't see the field as much.
He did. You're right.
And he struggled with his play, and I think mentally he was struggling and kind of down. But they have really turned him around.
Just think what that does for their recruiting, because how many guys has Heupel coached up? How many guys? How about Velus Jones? Remember him? He was a totally forgotten player who had transferred in from USC, didn't work out at USC, came into here. Pruitt didn't barely use him except to run back kicks. And all of a sudden, Heupel got a hold of him. Well, guess where he is now? Making millions in the NFL.
Yep.
3rd-round pick. Fast as lightning. He could, because Heupel recognizes talent and then coaches it up. Same thing he did with Hyatt. Same thing he's done with Tillman. The whole down the line. I mean, if you're a wide receiver out there and you're in high school and you're a 4 or 5-star and you're not looking at Tennessee, you're a fool, an absolute fool, because he will coach you up and put you in the NFL or help you get there at least. I mean, you have to do it yourself, but he'll put you on the path. You go somewhere else, you might end up forgotten. So just think about that. Carnell Tate, I know you're watching this. Why haven't you flipped already? What are you doing? You don't want to be the 3rd highest receiver in your class and wind up at Ohio State. And like I say, you're the 3rd highest in that class for Ohio State. Come here and you're number 1. I don't know what you're thinking.
This is our recruiting pitch right here.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking out for the young man.
Yeah.
Carnell, what are you thinking? Flip.
Come play with Nico.
Flip. Exactly. Nico wants you to.
Nico wants you.
Just do it. And then they've got cornerback Jaden Hill. He's actually a very good player. He's been upgraded to questionable. So even if he plays, he may not be 100%. He's quite a good cornerback. He's a guy that's going to play on Sundays. So we'll see how that plays out. But they've got quite a few injuries to deal with, and most teams do. We have been fortunate up to last week. And look, had those guys not been hitting us low, Akron, and yeah, I'm looking in your direction, Akron, no good son of a. Yeah, you tried to take out a quarterback too. I saw that crap. I saw it. Akron. Yeah, that hitting people low and hitting them in the knees is a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
man.
played pretty dirty.
Man, well, what was it? Tillman said dirty. One word on his Twitter account, dirty.
Yep.
And I think that's 100% right.
And that's why Callaway lost his cool and has to sit out the first half against Florida.
Yeah, because they're running that mouth.
Yep.
Akron's
like that pesky mosquito that gets in your house and just won't go away.
Well, that goes for your knees. Yeah. If that mosquito knocks your knees out, I guess they would be. That'd be a darn big mosquito. Now, our big question, Cedric Tillman, and here on Rocky Top Insider, it says Josh Heupel on Cedric Tillman's injury. Said we're going to find out here in the next couple of days. So it sounds like it's day-to-day with him, and he'll probably be it'll be a game time decision. That's probably what it's going to be. So we'll just keep watching that. I think we're okay with our running backs. Said they were all in practice and seemed to be running through the drills and everything. So I think we're okay at running back. And I'm trying. Do we have any other injuries other than Cedric Tillman? I think we're relatively healthy.
Up, but
yeah, small, but like I said, he's practicing, so I think he's going to be available. I think it's really the only question mark that's a significant starter is Tillman. So really, we're in pretty good shape compared to most every other team. Like I say, Florida's missing 2 or 3 starters. We may be down 1, but we're pretty deep at wide receiver, so I'm not going to let that totally dissuade me. And on top of that, Josh Heupel's had a week to prepare just in case Tillman's not there. It's not like it happened in the first quarter, and all of a sudden you got to rearrange things. I mean, he's going to be prepared. I have a lot of confidence in Heupel be able to handle in that kind of situation. And I think when Florida shows up at Neyland Stadium, it's going to be a lot like this.
You shall not pass!
All right, folks, it's going to be a heck of a day come Saturday. I know everybody's super excited about this. We talked a little bit about the Gators, and let me tell you something. I know some of you are out there worried with your battered Vol syndrome, but Florida's way more worried than you are.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I know. We've all got a case of it. I understand. I really do. But I feel good about this Saturday, and I'm super excited about it. And I know y'all are probably at the edge of your seat, but it's only 48 hours away. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. I just started a couple of months ago. I could use some subscribers. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time.
Go Big Orange.
On Sports Talk Jay.